Columbus, Georgia. This is your city council. Mayor, Skip Henderson, Byron Hickey, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2, Bruce Huff. District 3, Toya Tucker. District 4, Charmaine Crabb. District 5, Gary Allen. District 6, Joanne Kogel. District 7, Walker Garrett. District 8, John Anker. District 9, At-Large Council, Travis Chambers. District 10, At-Large Council, Lindsay McLemore, Clerk of Council, and City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia. This is your city council.
Welcome to the June 17th City Council meeting. We'll call the meeting to order, and we will begin it by asking former counselor Wayne Anthony, who is the pastor at St. Peter UMC of Columbus, Georgia, to come forward and offer our invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray. Oh God, for every person here this day, we give thanks. For the homes from which they come, we pray. For the organizations in which they represent, we also pray. And then we ask for your divine presence here in this place. Prevail, protect, direct, inspire each and every person, especially members of council and staff, that we might do what you wish that we do and be what you want us to be. As a city, as individuals, as family, we ask it in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Wayne.
You bet.
Appreciate everything that you do. If you would, please stand and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, the motion second to receive the minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at them. Are there any edits? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. We have a couple of people here from the judiciary that have court cases this morning. So we're going to go a little bit out of order, and I'm going to call Judge D'Antonio up first, and then we'll call the juvenile court as well. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you very much, and I do appreciate being here and the opportunity to cut in line. I have an 11 o'clock case that there's just no way I can continue.
Yes, sir, that's fine. Glad to accommodate.
I'm here actually to talk about my budget overages. What I did is I listed what my adopted budget was and my requests for the past number of years. I basically did not fight anyone about my adopted, my operating budget. It's less than 10% or around 10% of my total budget. And as an advocate, I learned you're more persuasive if you ask for what seems like a little instead of a lot. So that's my focus for the past couple of years has been on new employees. So I just rolled with what this is, knowing that I'd have an opportunity to talk to you all about going over budget if in fact I did. Where I'm at this year, I've projected that my total operating budget will be about $79,594. This is an aberration to what I would have expected. And in fact, I'm expecting my operating budget next year, notwithstanding the adopted 61,345, which has been the same since 2023, will be about 70,000. Big picture, I spent money on office supplies and our attorneys and guardians ad litem. As I think many of you know, I am fairly aggressive about helping vulnerable people, whether that means through involuntary psychiatric commitments or guardianship proceedings. Those are big deals because I'm interfering with your basic liberty interests and civil rights. None of you would want me doing that to you unless you were protected by an attorney and often a guardian ad litem. I'm throwing around guardian ad litems and attorneys synonymously. A guardian ad litem is an attorney that I appoint to listen to what the individual whose rights might be in jeopardy, but not necessarily do exactly what they want. They have to advocate for that person's best interest. And that's a very challenging job at times. There are two things that I will continue to use my guardian ad litem and attorney's fees on. One of them is a project I'm extremely excited about, and we're in a process of being studied by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities and Georgia State University to see how effective it is. It's called assisted outpatient treatment. For years, people with severe mental illness cycle in and out of the jail, in and out of psychiatric facilities. And the old model was to try to convince people with schizophrenia that they have schizophrenia and that's why they need to take their medicine. There are some people that because of their brain injury, they have something called anosognosia. They will never understand that they have a mental illness. And so trying to convince them that they have a mental illness is like banging your head against the wall, and that has been the approach that traditional psychiatric medicine has been doing for a long time. Through assisted outpatient treatment, I'm not arguing with people about things I will never convince them of, but through an involuntary treatment order and surrounding the folks with building these relationships, I've talked people into taking their injectable, long-acting psychiatric treatment, even in my court. But again, I'm not gonna do that without lawyers there to protect their rights. So that's part of it. I also continue to be, by default, because DFAC sends cases to probate court as a less restrictive alternative to juvenile court. So I continue to be an alternative to juvenile court. I do have a success story involving a minor guardianship. This kid was in the psych hospital, 5 different psych hospitals, 180 days during the year the guardianship was filed. Since I appointed a guardian ad litem, he's had one very brief crisis stabilization and one visit to the ER, and more significantly, he completed a year worth of school. The attorney, she ran up probably $1,000 in guardian ad litem fees and that, but I still think that was well worth it. But why am I'm still over what I even would have projected to be my budget, and that's because of a couple aberrations that are unique to this fiscal year. When I got a new employee, I needed to set him up with a whole workstation, computer, et cetera. That was an $1,800 expense. Also, we do a lot of marriage licenses and gun permits, and mostly marriage licenses, and we burned out one of those duplex printers, and you'd be surprised how expensive those things have gotten. In terms of the other cases, I had 2 extremely complicated cases that just sucked up resources that I didn't have a choice about. One of them involved a very, very intelligent person that had a traumatic brain injury and has anosognosia. She does not understand that she has a significant brain injury. She filed a petition to have her rights back, which is in fact her right, and she is smart enough that she talked a doctor, or at least one doctor from UAB, into saying she didn't need the guardianship. But there was a very complicated case. My guardian ad litem ran up a large bill related to helping her, and it's still going, that's gonna be an ongoing challenging case, but in terms of her rights to have her, consider having her rights restored, that part is resolved, so I don't anticipate unusual bills on her. The other individual was an individual that presented in an arrest for a probation violation with gangrene on her hands from her, her hands were often wet, she had rings, she never took her rings off. Eventually the skin grew over her rings. She had dry black gangrene. I had to That required an emergency guardianship. It required a petition to appoint a medical consent guardian to maybe force this individual to have surgery against her will. Needless to say, that took up some lawyer resources. The success story about that was after a lot of working about how to talk to people with that don't understand they have an illness and don't understand that they're going to lose their hand or maybe their lives. And with the appointment of a medical consent guardian that could have ordered her to be sedated, she consented to that, and the surgery saved her hand. So yes, that did run up a lot more resources than I'm normally used to, but again, I just didn't have a choice. When these things come in, they go ahead and, well, I mean, I get whatever comes in the door, so to speak, but I'm praying to God I don't have two cases like those two for the next coming year. And I was over on temp employee, but y'all heard my speech about needing a new employee last time. I greatly appreciate your time and this opportunity. I want to talk with y'all more about assisted outpatient treatment at a different time and talk about how we're working with Judge Ranieri and New Horizons to try to identify particular individuals that would benefit from AOT that might otherwise be clogging up the criminal justice system. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
And we do have some questions, but I apologize, I've got out of order. I should have invited Ms. Alexander down here. So while you're coming, I'm gonna call on Counselor Hickey.
I'm sorry, Ms. Alexander. Also, I have a handout and I emailed it to Ms. Alexander last night. There is a typo in it. I either should have said minors or children, not minors, children.
Gotcha. And I'm gonna call on Counselor Hickey right now, and we'll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, everybody. Mr. Mayor, Council, I've had the pleasure of experiencing all the good work that the judge do over in the courts, and I was just want to say thank you, sir, for your compassion for people who can't care for themselves. And you always being there with a positive mind of doing everything that you can to help them. And I certainly appreciate that. I've been in your court before. I've seen how you work with clients and with individuals that come before you. And I know that we're gonna take a time to listen to Ms. Alexander, but I'd just like to make a motion that we, give him the increase that he's asking for.
Well, I'm actually not. I'm asking you to pay my obliged budget for this year.
Okay.
If I need to come back, if you would prefer me not be back here next year because of what my operational budget is, I would consider coming back at mid-year, or I'll defer to you all about that. But I'm actually, I've already incurred these debts.
Well,
So as the mayor and, good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good
Sorry.
morning.
Members
I
of
apologize
council.
again.
That's okay. Ms. City Attorney, Deputy City Manager Goodwin. So the judge is here pursuant to Ordinance 13-39, which says that any department head or elected official must come before the council and ask for additional appropriations. If they are anticipating exceeding their budget, the judge, based on what he has provided, is requesting additional funding in the approximate amount of $18,249. Again, this is going to cover those expenses that the judge has incurred and will carry him through the end of FY25.
Okay, so we have a motion second. We've got Counselor Anchor.
I was just going to say, Judge, thank you for your servant's heart and for serving our citizens so well and caring so much. That's it. $18,000 is not much money over budget for such a small budget to be so effective and care so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anchor. Counselor Kogel?
I just want to echo Counselor Hickey and Counselor Anchor's sentiments. We actually have a few of your clients in my gym as well. So I know that you execute a lot of their estates. So for all the hard work that I know that you go through, as well as some of the other employees that you have, thank you for servicing these individuals. They really need it. They need somebody in their court.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? All right, Judge, thank you.
Thank you all very much. I do like my job, and I do like helping people.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Alexander, I'll go through you this time.
Oh, so we moving on to the next one? Are you gonna wait?
Yeah, we want to go ahead and do
You
the
wanna go ahead and do
probate.
it? Okay,
I
yes,
mean,
sir.
the
All
juvenile.
right, so again, we have another department elected office here. We have Samantha Cannon. She is representing juvenile court. She's the director of juvenile court. And they are here pursuant to ordinance 13-39 as well, requesting additional appropriations from the council. And I actually turn it over to Samantha and let her sort of speak to the need.
Thank you, Director Alexander. I'm here today to request an additional $90,000 in our budget. We have, as we spoke about a few weeks ago when Judge Kennon and I were here, we have seen an increase in the number of children who have come into foster care. Our attorney's fees have just ballooned out of control. We had the same problem last year. We were able to manage it. This year, we are not. We have about $90,000 that needs to be covered. Additionally, in our budget for next year, you'll see that we kind of moved funds. The guardian ad litem line looks like we're under, and the public defender line looks like we're over a lot. The problem is that public defender is actually parents' attorneys, and guardian ad litem is only for the child. So we are in a situation where the other day we were sitting in court. We had about $1,000 in attorneys on one case because each parent had an attorney. Each parent also had a guardian ad litem because they had some mental incapabilities. So we're just in the position where that's where we stand. We apologize to have to come and ask for this, but we do expect we may have to come back at mid-year again and ask for more funds next year, just depending on how our foster care numbers align for next year.
Okay. Any questions, or does anybody wish to make a motion to approve? Motion and a second to approve the request. Any comments to that motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, passes. Samantha, thank you.
There's actually a second request.
Yeah. We've got Councilor Coden wants to make.
Never mind, we're good.
All right. Councilor Coden?
Could you just remind us, I know, before you, don't
Samantha?
walk away. Samantha.
That's all right.
Could you just remind us how many children are in foster care? I know during the budget process, you gave us a number, but is that increasing, decreasing?
Oh, it's increasing
Okay.
dramatically. We are at about 525. I don't know the exact number as we sit here today. It seems like every time we return a child, another child comes into care, another 2 or 3 children come into care. 2 years ago, we were under 400, if that gives you any idea. And so it has ballooned. And I will say, the Department of Family and Children's Services does a really good job. They try to look at these cases at a local level, then they look at them at a regional level, and then at a state level before they do a removal. And so there's a lot of eyes on it. We're trying everything we can, temporary alternatives to foster care, but it just seems like the needs of this community are high right now.
Is there an increase in the amount of foster care applicants, or I guess foster care families, or I'm not sure what the term is. Foster
Parents.
parents is
Parents.
what, yes. Thank you.
So yes, so as you can imagine, we generally don't have foster families that just have one mom and one dad. We're generally seeing one mom with several kids and a couple of fathers. And if all of those fathers appear before us, if they're entitled to an attorney, then we also have to give each of them an attorney. So we are seeing not just the increase in the number of parents who need an attorney, but we're also seeing an increase in the number of parents who need a GAL appointed in addition to their attorney.
I guess just to clarify, how about foster care parents where these children can go? That was my question.
Where they can what? I'm sorry.
Where they're taken care of, where
Oh,
they.
you're talking about foster care
families.
placements?
Yes, placements.
So that's more of a question for the Department of Family and Children's
Okay.
Services. I know Judge McBride is working on a project where when I gave him some of the data, I don't have that handy, but I'm happy
Okay.
to send that to you.
All right, perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. That's all from the mayor's agenda. We will have an executive session, again, it's a scheduled executive session at 11 o'clock that's been requested, so we'll take a break right around 11 o'clock. Mr. City Attorney?
All right, thank you, Mayor. Got a fairly short business agenda this morning. Need to take some votes first. These are zoning items, 10, 12, 31st Street. It's recommended for approval.
All right, there's a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on that item? All right, hearing none, if you would, please put it on the screen. Counselors, you can register your vote. Counselor Davis is voting the affirmative. With that's approved.
All right, passes. Next item is zoning at Sly Road and River Road, residential estate 1, ready for adoption.
All right, there's a motion second to approve the rezoning of Sly Road and River Road. Any discussion on that item? All right, please put it on the screen. Councilors, once again, enter your votes. And that is approved.
That passes. All right, next zoning is 101 23rd Street, going to residential, single-family residential 4.
Motion second to approve the rezoning of 23rd Street. Any discussion on that property? All right, again, please put it on the screen, and councilors, you can put your votes on there. That's approved.
Okay. Next is the county city millage levy. It is ready for final approval.
Motion and a second to approve the millage. Any discussion on that item? All right, hearing none, please put it on the screen, and councilors, you can enter your vote. Okay, that passes.
All right. Now we've got a first reading on the school district millage remaining at 23.075 mils. Not sure if anybody's here from the school district, but are there any questions around the table? We won't have a final approval till July on their levy. Anybody in the audience want to be heard on this item, school district millage? Okay. Mayor, we will bring that back July 8th meeting for final approval. And we've got 2 resolutions. First one up is about 20 different law firms we use during the year for various legal services. It's ready for adoption.
Motion second to approve. To the motion, Councilor Tucker.
Can you tell me the process of adding additional attorney to this list?
You can do it right now by amendment, or we can always come back during the year if we need to.
You gotta hit your thing. I am looking for the actual firm. It's Greenberg, Trerich, Ernest Greer is the attorney. I would like to add to this list, and I think Councilor Hickey has some
All right,
attorneys.
and what was that name one more time?
It's Ernest, E-R-N-E-S-T, Greer, G-R-E-E-R. It's the law firm of Greenberg, Trerick.
They're a large firm in Atlanta. We're familiar with them.
Okay.
All right, can we get a motion to amend to add that?
I got a couple that I'd like to add.
He wanted,
Okay.
do you want to add them?
Do them all at once?
time?
Yeah, we can do them all.
Councilor Davis, I'll come back to you if that's okay. Councilor Hickey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Attorney, I'd like to add Maxine Wallace and Gwen Newsom to the list. Thank you.
And that Maxine Hardy, did you say Wallace?
Yeah, Hardy Wallace, yeah.
Wallace.
Yeah.
And then Glenn Newsom.
Thank you.
We are definitely familiar with those lawyers. All right, any others? Okay, can we get a motion on all three then?
Motion second to add the lawyers as stated. Any discussion on any of those? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, they'll be added to the list. Thank you, Counselors. Counselor.
Now we can entertain a motion to adopt the whole list.
Dadgummit, I think I messed you up. All right, so is this to the motion? Okay. Motion second to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's approved. Counselor Davis, if you'd hit your light again, I accidentally turned you off. Counselor Davis?
Yeah, Mayor, item 7 is a resolution the city attorney is asking. I cannot support that at this point. I think it needs to be scrutinized a little bit more, and I'm either asking for it to be pulled or I just cannot support it.
Yeah. It's a pleasure of the council. We're not recommending any delay because the appellate courts have said the county government must pay these fees when an official has hired a lawyer, paid out of their pocket. They are entitled to reimbursement.
Second. Motion second to approve. Any further discussion on those items? All right, all in favor say aye.
I got the whole invoice.
Are there any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All those opposed, raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, it's an inconclusive vote.
All right, it's inconclusive, Mayor. Our custom is to bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay.
And Mayor, may I add to that?
Yeah, you still on?
Thank you, Mayor. And again, I'm going to say it needs to be further scrutinized, and if that has to take place before a judge and in a court, I think it's appropriate to let them do the proper questioning. So certainly there is the basis for further questioning. Thank you.
All right, Counselor Hickey?
And I just want to add and just piggyback on to what Councilman Davis just said. You know, I know that the law, the courts require us to take care of these legal fees, but when they, you know, when these fees come in at such a high level, you know, it's very concerning, you know, whether or not, you know, our city government and our taxpayers are being taken advantage of. And I think we have to be careful here that we don't go and set a precedent that this is okay. You know, I think that, you know, whether it's the city attorney or whatever attorneys are representing us, they need to, you know, sit down and talk with these attorneys and negotiate with them. But when they start giving these, you know, if the amount is just extreme, we just need to be very mindful and be careful of that because, you know, once you start doing it, we open ourselves up. And the next thing you know, everybody that feels that they hire an attorney, they paid their retainer fees or whatever they've done, and their lawyers give them, you know, give the city a bill. And in most cases, you'll find that a lot of times these attorneys hadn't even done a lot of work. And I just think that, you know, we're overstretching if we agree to do something like this, and we're opening up the floodgates. So I just think that we need to be mindful and careful of that, you know, going forward.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Crabb?
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, could you send us a copy of that bill? I'm just wondering what our responsibilities are. Does it give us any boundaries on when they go to get an attorney? Like, do charges need to be filed? I mean, is there boundaries within that law that says we're required to pay it? Just so like any employee could go out and get an attorney and we'd be obligated to pay?
Only when the official acting in their official capacity is required to hire outside counsel to assert a legal position that obviously the local city attorneys cannot assert. And when the official is successful in asserting his or her position. A local government must pay a local official's attorney's fees when you have those two circumstances, and that's been in the appellate court decisions for at least since 2014, so.
Then that's my question. Were those two circumstances really in play? Because there were no charges.
No, it
There
doesn't
were
matter. They were a target
implications.
of an investigation.
Pardon?
They were a target of a criminal investigation. The court has said that's all you need.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
You know, I'm telling you what the case law is. Y'all can debate it, debate the fees. I'll tell you this, the hourly rate on this particular fee from the Robbins firm is in the middle of the range from Columbus lawyers through Atlanta lawyers that we've used in the past. So it's right in the middle. You're not the high or the low.
Councilor Garrett?
I voted to pay these attorney's fees, not because I agree with the amount of the bills. It's ridiculous. But I've looked at the case law, and if we're gonna protect our taxpayers, we need to pay the attorney's fees, because I will tell you, I used to do hourly work. There's no way for us to go back and audit the amount of time they spend on emails and calls and all the different things. I reviewed their billable time. And I can tell y'all, if you want to ignore my discretion, or my opinion as the lawyer on council, that's fine. We're gonna spend much more trying to appeal this, much more. It is not fair to our taxpayers just to draw a line in the sand when there's appellate law on this issue. The appropriate response would be for us to ask the legislature to put something in statute that would override this common law decision and try and change this, because I can tell you, yeah, this was unreasonable billing. For not having a trial, $45,000 is excessive. And maybe we need to ask the legislature to basically maybe have an approved attorney list or something like that, but this needs to be addressed legislatively. This is gonna cost a lot of time and money. Just going to the Court of Appeals is gonna cost us 6 figures. If we go to the Supreme Court, which this is likely gonna be appealed, if there's, and I don't think the Court of Appeals is gonna overrule itself. But I'm just telling y'all, this is not a prudent decision for our taxpayers. The prudent decision for our taxpayers is to follow the law and then address this in the, at the legislative side. I don't think, and once again, I don't think this bill was fair. I think it was unreasonable. There's a loophole in the law. It's not good. We need to address that, but we gotta address it either legislatively. I don't think we need to be the test case, though, to try and change appellate law and, cost our city probably a couple $100,000 in appellate lawyers.
Yeah, I would agree with those points. You can always ask the General Assembly when these circumstances are present out of the Stockbridge case that they be looked at in camera by a Superior Court judge before the county
All right,
makes
thank
a
you.
payment. But that's something for the list in October.
Councilor Crabb?
Thank you, Counselor Garrett, for saying that. I will change my vote.
All right, there's a motion, a second for reconsideration. To the motion.
Right.
Oh, that is right, you did vote.
I'll make that motion.
It's a motion made by Councilor Crabb, seconded to the motion, Councilor Kogle.
Yeah, if we don't get a conclusive vote, yeah.
Mr. City Attorney, would you be able to give us all the billing so that, and a copy of the ordinance and everything that we might need so that we can take a look at this, so that we can have a better plan when it goes to the legislative agenda?
Yeah, for the July meeting?
Yeah, it's just so that, like a consolidated, like,
Sure.
list of what we would need in order to make those
And then
adjustments.
we'll send you a copy of the final bill plus the billing that leads to the reimbursement of the 5,000.
And then the statement that you read as well, so that we can.
Sure, the court case.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that would be great. Thank you.
Be glad to do that.
Counselor Tucker?
Yes, thank you, City Attorney. I would say just go ahead and add it to our legislative agenda and write it up in a way that we can push it, but also have it for that ACCG meeting. We had our walkthrough yesterday, but on July 18th, that way we can have that discussion on the ACCG
We'll send you a
level.
draft.
Yeah,
You can take it to that meeting and use it in October also.
thank you.
Counselor Davis?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is a ripoff to the citizens. We're setting a very dangerous precedence here, and without the ability to question the attorney, I've got a lot of questions. A lot of questions. I've been through this before, and yeah, this is outrageous. But to open that door and set precedents, where does it stop? Because that's what we're doing. The council did not approve this. We were not part of it. And where did it begin? I have a question. Where did it begin? Because there were charges filed. There was no prosecution, but there were charges filed. But I want to also understand our policy, our local policy, and that might need to be changed. Because we start opening this door, where does it stop across the board? It's highway robbery. I mean, come on. I mean, really. And to ask yourself the question, why? There was no need for any of it at that point in time. But if you read the investigation, you would understand there were some issues that were there. But there was no need for that. It never even got to depositions. It never even got to questioning or whatever. There was a letter read. Geez, I mean, maybe the lawyer needs to go back to college or law school or something. It took him 7+ hours to write a letter. Are you kidding me? At over $500 an hour? I mean, come on. This is embarrassing. So, like I said, I've still got a lot of questions. If we can't we can't ask the questions to the attorney and get him in here, then I would certainly hope a judge or a jury or a appeal court would ask those questions, because they're going to ask the side. Look, I've talked to some lawyers, friends of mine, and they've all said the same thing. They can't believe it. If you've ever been through this and you understand it, you would ask the same question. How did we get to that amount of money? But if that starts to become the norm, that's what we're dealing with, and it's a dangerous precedence.
All right, Counselor Hickey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilman Davis, but I have a question for the city attorney. Is there any way, are these fees negotiable? Is anybody on the part of the city reached out to this attorney and tried to negotiate this cost? Or are we just accepting what they sent to us and signing off on it? I mean, have any of our city attorneys that represent the city have reached out to try to negotiate these fees?
No, so the courts have said the attorney's fees in this instance are simply an expense of government operation. And, you know, we can't represent the target of the investigation and the prosecutor's position on it. We can certainly look at fees, we can question them. We've looked at them. They go back to August of 2024, so. And so you're talking about a year's worth of attorney's fees.
Okay, and in this process of representing the city employee, this firm, how many times have you interacted with her, this attorney?
We've only gotten 1 or 2 emails regarding the invoice. We don't interact with the lawyer because we have a conflict. We're not involved in the underlying matter.
Okay, well, I was referring to as far as when we got this bill, have anybody reached out to them concerning, you know, the amount? So you telling me today?
We had one or two emails with the attorney.
Okay. Okay. And so, you know, and what I'm asking, if it's if we can reach out to them to negotiate it, this fee, and just put this off to see whether or not, give them opportunity to see whether or not they'll come down on the price. You know, I mean, I think that's a fair request.
We'll be glad to touch base with them again. I don't have a problem with that.
I think
we can't get into the underlying case, of course,
understand
but we
that.
can ask about the bill.
Yeah, I understand that. So I just think that we all at least make that attempt. You know, I mean, I agree with Councilman Garrett, you know, make it to where we may have to build. If we can get it down some, because I think that if it get to any judge, I think that, and I understand the cost that it would take to get to that through the appellate courts, you know, on the appeal. But I think a judge gonna look at this and just say, this is outrageous.
Well, there again, I'm gonna have to defer to people like Councilor Garrett, who are familiar with these fees, but if a certain amount is not agreed upon and the bill is not paid, you're gonna be looking at more attorney's fees and more litigation. So we'll certainly be glad to get in touch with them before July 8th and see if there's any room to come down.
Well, I just ask that we try to reach out to them first.
Okay.
And just, you know, and I'd like just for us to delay this, Mr. Mayor, you know, if council don't mind. Not saying that I won't come back later and vote if that's what we gotta do, but I just think we need to make that extra step, you know, take that extra step and just try to see, can we get this worked out a lot cheaper? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Davis?
City Attorney, you said this comes under city operations. Did your office give the approval for the person and
No,
subject
sir.
person to
No, sir. We don't.
authorize the
We
attorney?
don't get to do that under the case law. No, sir.
Mayor, did your office do it?
Ask the question again.
Did your office give the authority for the person of interest here that we're talking about to go and retain an attorney?
We leave those decisions up to the city.
Well, he said he didn't do it.
No,
He just
in
said
this
he didn't do
case,
it.
we're not authorized.
He knows if the authority is implicit, if the right is there.
I know
Under the
council
law,
didn't give the authority,
under the case law, the official that's the target of the investigation has to pay out of their pocket, which was done in this case.
well, how did we know that? How did we know that in the beginning when all this started? You didn't.
I've got
You
a
didn't know any
bill
of that
from August
until
of 24.
deep into an investigation. And by the way, the council had nothing to do with
We
that
don't
investigation.
see anything until the investigation's over, Counselor. I'm telling you what the law says. You're liable for the fees. We'll try to get them negotiated down. But if you go to court, you're gonna pay more attorney's fees.
I think the question is the timeline there, as far as the investigation goes, the timeline. There was a lot of time in there that there was no need for any attorneys.
Well,
They didn't do anything.
that may be your opinion, Counselor.
Well,
That's
were
fine.
they involved in the subpoenas and going before judges to terminate the?
I don't know. They were targeted, we're not privy to what this lawyer did.
Well, I think we ought to know that.
We're privy now on the billing. We didn't know this lawyer's strategy a year ago when he was representing somebody. I'm telling you what the law is.
Well,
You
and I-
gotta pay these fees under the appellate case law, period.
Ms. City Attorney, I understand that, with all due respect. If you didn't question it, you should have questioned it, and it should be
No, sir.
questioned.
The law
at
doesn't
any
work
time.
that way.
Well,
We
that's a
don't question
shame.
it until it comes in.
You know what, that comes across to me as a con, a big con, a scam.
That's why you can put it on the legislative agenda if you want to.
Let's move forward. Turns your light off, you want, we can put that as a referral, our policy to be distributed to the council for the.
Now, this is not a local policy, this is a state
Well,
policy.
let's just give council what allows this.
We'll
and
look at it for
requires
the
this.
legislative agenda, that's all you can do.
Okay. All right. We're getting, I think Counselor Kogle is next. No, Counselor Anchor was, I'm sorry. Y'all are all lit up over here.
Well, you know, I was looking at the original motion, and it says that our employee came out of pocket $5,000 to initiate for a retainer. And I don't know, I can't remember if there's a motion on the table, what it was, but maybe we would consider that as a reasonable engagement while we, if we could, City Attorney,
You can certainly
continue to
authorize,
engage until the next time we're.
I mean, you can authorize the 5,000 a day if that's what you're
So
considering.
is there a motion on the table?
That's correct.
Counselor Crabb, are you holding that motion? Okay, well, my subsequent motion would be that we would reimburse the employee for engagement, and we would delay for the rest of this and get the information emailed to us. That would be my motion.
All right, there's a, all right, well, let's allow the rest of council to speak, because I know
Okay.
Counselor Garrett is sort of a subject matter expert on this. And he's next. Counselor Garrett.
I just want to explain how the attorney's fees work when you review them. Okay, so it's not based on what's reasonable. It's based on what is basically kind of the range in the jurisdiction. So I'll give you an example. I got a default judgment 2 weeks ago for a few $1 million. Our fee, about what is usual and customary with the contingency fee case, is 40%. Now, I didn't have a jury trial. I had a bench trial, and I can guarantee you I didn't work $1 million worth of fee on that case. My hourly rate would be outrageous, but it doesn't matter. If I win attorney's fees, the judge looks at what are the typical fees, and in Atlanta, even though this is outrageous for what was done, I don't disagree with that. It was outrageous. When you look at what is reasonable and what, or not what is reasonable, sorry, I'm using the wrong word. What is typical for that local jurisdiction and for the state of Georgia, we have broad ranges from Columbus down to the bottom of the number, but all the way up to a few $1,000s an hour for, you know, very experienced litigators at King and Spalding and people who do contingency fee work. So they're not going to look at, was this reasonable for this case? They're going to look at, and I don't like using this word, but what's reasonable for a case like this. And for a criminal case in Atlanta, I mean, it doesn't matter that this is local. They hired an Atlanta attorney, and when you look at the entire state as a whole, this is what is within the realm of normal. But one last thing I'll say, when I talked about 6 figures, that was for us. We're also going to have to pay the $550 an hour for them, and they're also going to hire co-counsel who will be appellate counsel. Now, appellate counsel will probably be somebody from Bondurant Mixon. It's not going to be one of our firms. It's going to be one of the plaintiff's firms that does appellate work. But Clifton can back me up. They charge thousands per hour for appeals. So we could be looking at, if we lose the appeal, we could be looking at thousands and thousands of, tens of thousands of dollars paying their fees. And we keep talking about precedents. The precedence has been here. It's just overriding anything we do locally. It's been here since 2014 at the state level. We have to remember, we're not setting precedents. This is something, yes, we do need to change. It's not fair to the local government. It's not fair to us. It is being abused here, but we're not going to be able to change it based on what we've got in this case. And if we do try and change it, it's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm just not prepared to do that with our taxpayers.
Thanks, sir. Counselor Kogel?
Mr. City Attorney, do we have, or in the state law, is there a indication of when a employee can hire an attorney at all? Like, for example, can any of our employees right now hire an attorney on a retainer prior to an investigation starting? Or if there's an investigation that might start, can they automatically hire a lawyer? Or is there a stipulation or like a window of opportunity per se?
Normally, there'd be an indictment or an investigation where they're a target, where they would hire their own counsel, because we can't authorize taxpayers to pay it at that point. So there would
So there would have to be an investigation, an active investigation.
There's normally an investigation going on, civil or criminal. In this case, it was both by the sheriff.
And how do we determine whether or not they were a target?
Well, I think it was announced somewhere along halfway through the investigation who was a target and who wasn't. But at that point, a year ago, this person spent money for a retainer out of their pocket.
Okay.
Yeah, in the normal case, if there's no investigation going on, somebody says, I want to hire a lawyer, well, that's not approved.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Counselor Tucker?
Yes, City Attorney Faye.
Mhm.
So when we have, and we just added, today, a resolution authorizing payment for approved attorneys. When we have things that we need to be done, whether it's helping with the audit or, you know, speaking to attorney, we have to, as council, use those approved attorneys. Is this
Well,
something?
First thing you ought to do is call us.
Well,
'Cause we,
yeah.
depending on what the issue is, we may refer you to one or another of the attorneys. We may say, well, you don't need an attorney on that. Here's exactly what the rule is. But
Right.
yeah, if we need outside help on whatever the issue is, litigation or not,
We have to
then
use
we
it.
want to use
the approved.
one of the approved lawyers.
Is that something that we can do as our own local policy to require using this approved attorney list if you're being charged for actually doing something
No,
within your?
not the city-approved lawyers. These are lawyers on a list. The 20 that we have on the list are those to represent the city, you folks as city officials, as needed during the year on city matters, complex litigation, or simple litigation. But you don't want to, I mean, employees that are target of an investigation, they can go hire who they want and pay out of their own pocket. They don't have to pick somebody on the approved list that are city, usually defense lawyers during the year. I mean, they're going to go find I suppose, a criminal law specialist, which this person is.
I'm asking that because we're going to ask the legislator to approve an attorney list at.
Well, I don't think you want to ask for a list. I think what you want to do is ask the legislators, anytime these circumstances are present and a government official has to pay out of pocket for a lawyer, that at the end of the proceeding, civil or criminal, you want a Superior Court judge to review the fees.
Okay.
Before the county has to make payment. That would be the way to ask for it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo what Councilor Walker has presented us with and add to that. We just got tort reform passed this year. And I want to make everybody aware, tort reform was first introduced in the 80s. So it took that long for it to get passed. So don't think we're going to put something on the legislative agenda that's going to, you know, it's going to draw a lot of opposition. So anyway, I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. This changing the law regarding lawyers is a big deal. Regarding the courts especially, it is a big deal. So thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir, thank you. Counselor Anchor? Here we go.
It just kind of came to my mind that if there's not are there terms on that invoice, city attorney? Terms? Like,
No, they're detailed.
well, I mean, do they expect, can we get a 10% discount if paid within 30 days? Is it due in a year? Can we put it in the next year's budget?
And we can call the attorney and inquire about that,
Yeah.
but there aren't any in the bill we have.
And are there any terms in the state law that you read to us?
No, sir, that's just the appellate law of Georgia that says you must make payment under these circumstances.
Well, I think it's important that we had this conversation and try to change the talk, and it might be a difficult situation, but we all got to be mindful of the costs associated with what we're doing, and that means an employee, the lawyers, and counsel for our budget. But I stand with the subsequent motion and wait on Councilor Crabb.
All right, so there is a substitute motion, that is to approve the $5,000 out of pocket, and delay the approval of the remainder of the bill. Again, well, we've heard from everybody. I think Councilor Garrett has made some very good points in terms of the cost, potential cost of the citizens. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Any opposed? No. All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
This on the subsequent motion?
This is on the substitute motion.
The reimbursement.
So this,
I thought her motion was already on the table.
no, you asked for a substitute motion to pay the 5,000 and to delay the remainder. So once again, please raise your right hand if you are approving the delay and the 5,000.
Okay, the delay, to pay the 5,000 and delay on the.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right.
So everybody clear on what they're voting on? All right, raise your right hand if you're in favor of that substitute motion.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right. That did not, all those against, please raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right. Then
Yeah,
we've got 10 counts.
we'll bring it back on July.
That's 5-5, mayor votes.
Oh, that's right. We got a tie vote.
So I vote to go ahead and pay the entire amount to try to, I vote against this motion. Substitute. So now all that did was cancel that motion. We still need a vote. Just a moment. We still go back to the original motion from Councilor Crabb. All those her motion was to go ahead and pay the fees, reconsider and go ahead and pay the fees. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All those opposed, same sign.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, that passes.
All right, so the entire resolution is approved by 6-4 vote. And we'll certainly be happy to work on a legislative agenda item if you want to pursue that. And then, Mayor, that's the end of our formal agenda. We do need 11 o'clock hard break executive session for potential litigation, personnel, and real estate acquisition and disposal.
And so potential litigation, personnel, real estate.
Real estate acquisition and disposal.
Oh, and okay.
That's all we've got.
All right. All right, we'll move into the public agenda. Reminder that you have 5 minutes. I'll try to signal you with like a minute to go because I don't know that we've gotten the timer put in this middle podium is where you'll come. If you can't get everything done or said that you really want to get across, you'll have an opportunity to come back after the clerk's agenda for an additional 3 minutes. And as I always do, I'll apologize in advance, but to be fair, we try to cut everybody off at or just a hair after the 5 minutes. The first is Mr. Robert Nurkowski regarding electric vehicle infrastructure, public transportation, and mental health treatment for the homeless. Is Mr. Nurkowski here? Okay. All right. Next is Mr. Tony Gaskins regarding city government. Mr. Gaskins, if you'd hit that button and we'll get that light turned on for you.
Is that good?
Yes, sir. You're good.
Tony Gaskins, 4540 Sears Road, Columbus. Mayor, City Council, and fellow citizens. As listed on the city website, the city manager is responsible for planning, directing, and supervising activities of all city employees. He or she develops, implements, and administers the policies of the city manager and controls functions of city departments, performs duties and functions relative to a citywide range of city programs and functions. Over 21 instances of mismanagement or no management documented by local news organizations. How many other management issues have been covered up that will never see the light of day? How many employees silenced for fear of retribution? Personnel hired, trained, and mentored directly or indirectly by the former city manager have failed to carry out their responsibilities in the following areas. Columbus Animal Control Center, a service provided by the City of Columbus for decades, outsourced to PAWS for over $3 million. City of Columbus embarrassed by video of animal cruelty spread over the internet. Criminal investigation resulted in numerous employees arrested. City manager response, I didn't know. It was his job to know. City Finance Department, millions not collected. Not missing, not stolen, just never collected or processed. It's not 45 million. It's not 22 million. It's only 2.5 million. Issues documented with the City Finance Department for years, but never resolved. City manager response, I didn't know. It was his job to know. Former city manager, outspoken supporter of Chief Blackman, whose tenure saw the largest exodus resignation of officers in 12 years. Hundreds of years of experience chose to leave rather than endure the working conditions under Chief Blackman. His administration caused well over $1 million spent in settled lawsuits. Lawsuits, rumors of lawsuits, nepotism, city payout for lawsuits, mismanagement has cost the city much needed revenue. Whistleblowers who stood up for what is right and for the City of Columbus refused to bow at the altar to the city manager. I want to thank the 7 city councilors finally seen enough, dismissing the former city manager not for personal or racial issues as he claims, but simply for not fulfilling his duties as listed on the city website. The facts have been presented and documented. If you can't attack the facts, attack the messengers. Time and again, the messengers have been attacked personally, but the facts remain and are indisputable. Personal and racist attacks should have no place in our city, state, or country. Racist comments such as, they're in-house Negroes. They carry the buckets of water. They've sold their souls. It was hurtful and painful that the motion to fill Judy Thomas's seat was made by an African-American. I want to thank the six councilors for voting their conscience on March 11th to fill the vacant seat. Comments were made about the newest councilor such as, no one voted for him. He's lost 2 citywide elections. Consider that he spent hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars to try and improve the city he calls home. In 2022, he received almost 12,000 votes, and in 2024, over 6,800 votes. Everyone could see the mayor's reluctance and feel his frustration on proceeding so quickly and wished to delay the vote for the empty council seat. Then he was reminded that a motion and a second motion required a vote. To me, the frustration was more evident in the councilors who have lost faith in your leadership. The incidents mentioned above have happened on your watch, and yet you sing the praises of the former city manager. You saw the friction and division between councilors and the former city manager and did nothing. Mr. Mayor, you and the previous mayor praised the leadership of the former city manager, even though his policies and lack of management have cost the city millions. Hundreds of hours inside this chamber have been dedicated to discussing and trying to resolve the situations mentioned above. I listened to one councilor address concerns about the possible misuse and abuse of the TAD districts. Had this and other revenue issues been addressed, would that help our revenue issues? We have a council well-educated and with a breadth of experience. If only those wasted hours could have been spent solving the multitude of issues facing Columbus. For our mayor and council, I hope and pray for good working relationship and progress toward solving the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaskins. All right, next is Mr. Timothy Veals regarding Columbus property conditions.
Good morning to everyone. Timothy Veals, 1039 Brook Road, Columbus, Georgia. Well, my complaint is about the proper cleanup. Benny Drive, Red Hawk Cedar Road, Fort Benny Road. We got Winslow Road, Cabin, and Brook. 1039 Brook, about 1 minute from the fire department. I believe that's fire department 10. I called the city about a month ago. They came out for to cut the ditch on Head Street and Brook. They could have stayed at home. They didn't do nothing. Also on the homeowner, I've been called on the house for about 8 years, 9, 10 years. Don't get no kind of response. I got called on the same house all the time and don't nothing happen. I talking about Now, I thought the city supposed to be, city council for the whole Columbus, not just certain area. And, you got that Fountain View apartment on Winston Road. And that's the first time I ever seen something like that. The city pick up, they put about 20 trash cans out there. City will pick every one of them up and leave the other trash can. Winston Road, I was talking about Winston Road and Cabin Brook, Pine Grove landfill a little better than that. I mean, it's a shame that the city can't come through. And the city ain't too far from Brook Road, Benny Drive. Now, y'all leave there and go way out there to Green Island Hill. I see them up there every time I go up there. I always make a road every time I go out there, see people out there working. But we right here in the neighborhood, you know, you can't even get nothing to clean up. You got downtown look so beautiful, ride 5 minutes out to my house, everything look like hell. I mean, you know, it's a shame, especially if somebody come in town, they want to view Columbus, they ride 5 minutes out and see, what this is. I don't know why the city can't do nothing about making people clean up their property. To me, that's just so simple. Now, I'd be glad to help you tell you how you do it. Ain't got to do just ride around and write a ticket. Just simple as that. And so that really my main concern. I'm quite sure I come down here and everything looks so beautiful. I'm quite sure I go in one of y'all, I don't know where none of y'all live, I go in y'all neighborhood, I bet it look beautiful. But 1039 Brook Road, Cabin Avenue, Winston Road, Youngman, Fort Benning Road, we got a new school working on right there. It look a mess. It really do. And Pine Grove landfill a little better than that. So that's what I had to say about that.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. All right, and next is Skip Sita. I didn't know which way to say that. Delayed permit for a commercial roof. Welcome, Mr. Sita.
Even mom and daddy didn't call me that. So you're absolved. I appreciate y'all seeing me today.
Just state your name and your
My name is Skip Sata, and I'm the owner of A1 Postage Meters and Shipping Systems on 2nd Avenue, 2706 2nd Avenue. Started the business back in 1989, been in Columbus this whole time, and have been on 2nd Avenue since 2000 and since the year 1911 happened. We've got some issues with permitting and inspections. And I don't know what caused it. We're kind of in a circular argument. I've asked for attorneys to help, and the attorneys that I've called have said, oh yeah, and then they go, wait a minute, Columbus? Yes, sir. We don't want any part of it. We do business with the city, but maybe you can call this guy, and the next guy says the same thing. Nope, won't do anything about it. We're trying to put a roof on our building. And if you go by 2706 2nd Avenue, you'll see blue tarps all over the front. This is my original contractor. And one day, an inspector, his name was Salata, came in, and he told us we had to have a permit. Well, we were under the impression you did not have to have a permit to do siding and roofing. He told us that was incorrect, and then he issued a stop order. Now, nobody was working at the time, but he issued a stop order. Then he came back again and issued a second stop order, even though nobody was working at the time. And he actually told, Chris Harden, told Chris that he had seen him doing siding when he was doing it, riding up and down the street, but he never did anything about it. He never stopped. But then once he started tearing off the roof, that's when he decided to stop. So we've had blue tarps on our roof for several weeks, and he said, you got to get a permit. And he goes to get a permit. Well, he's licensed in Alabama. So we said, well, let's see if what we can do. He said, well, I want to get licensed. Well, he's under the impression, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but he knows his business, that if you're licensed somewhere that you can go to the probate office and get a permit to do the work. Well, he's not being allowed to do that. Now they're saying he has to have a GC. So whenever I ask about a GC, he said, no, you have to have a commercial GC. You can't just have a a regular GC. Well, now the people who are licensed like they're saying are going, oh, you got a problem with the permit office? We won't touch you. Because they don't want to make the permit office mad for the next time they go down there. So we can't find anybody to do the work. Now, fast forward to, I guess, a week or so ago, they said, well, you don't need a permit for the roof, but you need one for the siding. Well, we're already finished with the siding. I'm sorry, the siding is not complete. The siding on the side, I think, is complete. The siding on the front is not. So he said, but you don't need a permit for the roof. Well, then let's do the roof. Well, you can't, because now they're saying that when we built this building back in, I guess it was 2000, now they're claiming we have living quarters upstairs, and they've not talked to me. I called Ryan Pruitt last Friday, and I'm sure he'll call me back. I know he's busy, but I haven't heard back from him. But they're saying that there was really no upstairs in the building, and that we have added meeting rooms and break room, the kitchen, bathroom, and living quarters. Well, it's been like this since the beginning. Whenever they inspected it, there's a 6-foot wide staircase, which is larger than normal, going upstairs. All they had to do was walk up the staircase and see that this was all finished. But now they won't give us a permit because they're saying that we need to be rezoned because we have living quarters. Well, I lived 2 hours away until about 8-9 years ago. So when I would come over to work, rather than going home, if I'd been here real late, I just go upstairs to sleep, get up and work again the next day. I still keep clothes up there because we're small business. Most of y'all are too. You know, you may start out the day in blue jeans, put on a tie, and come back that evening and be in a polo shirt. Well, that's what it's for. So what I'm asking y'all is, I just need some advice. I need some help. I need to know what to do. Because the other day we had some tarps that were up there that blew. We did fix them back, but you know, it did extra damage to my building, and my understanding is permitting and inspection is there to protect us. And right now what they seem to be doing is killing us.
Let's see if we can get you some answers. I know Councilor Garrett has been working very hard to try to get in touch with
Yes, sir.
our staff to try to help get this brought to some conclusion. Deputy City Manager Goodwin?
Yes, Mayor, we have Ryan Pruitt, the Director of Inspections and Codes, is here and can respond to that. He's very familiar with this issue.
Good.
Good morning, Mayor.
Ryan, if you'd hit that light, I'm gonna have to turn that thing on. There we go.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. As Mr. Seda did mention, he did try to give me a call Friday. I did try to get in touch with him yesterday. Unfortunately, we weren't able to connect. Overall timeline, so in mid-May, May 13th, I believe, we did notice work occurring on the property, you know, without any permits, anything like that. The building inspector did go out, issue a stop work order, did go out the next day. Again, in his opinion, there were, you know, additional violations that were ongoing as far as work without permit and those types of things. So a citation was issued, and so that court date, you know, will happen, and the court will decide what the appropriate action is for that. Mr. Seda did hire a contractor. Again, state law requires licensed general contractors who are licensed by the state of Georgia to do certain work on commercial properties. He was able to find somebody to submit for a permit. They submitted that June 6th. And we will get that permit issued either today or tomorrow so that they can pick up the project and get it completed in the building, you know, back weather tight.
Okay.
And I realize, you know, he's busy, so I was not too upset about us not getting up yesterday. But I do have the question about his ticket. So if we're getting the permit and doing those things, what about the ticket? I know y'all aren't judges, but does this go away now or what?
So the violation, again, in our opinion, still occurred. You know, the work still happened without a permit, which is the violation. So even if after the fact you correct the violation, you know, that ordinance violation still occurred. And so that's why, you know, the hearing in environmental court and all that will proceed, and the judge will adjudicate the case as they see appropriate.
Okay. And I'm sorry if this is inappropriate, but what about the zoning and the living quarters and all that he's talking about? That's a huge concern for me.
So that is something that we do need to look at a little more in depth. Obviously, if it is an existing non-conforming condition, then, it would be allowed to stay. We have the original plans from 1999 when the building was built. Obviously it was built as a business occupancy. So if a residence, something that could be used as a full-time dwelling was added, we would have significant life safety concerns about that because the building wasn't designed to have people sleeping in it.
Yes, sir.
When you're asleep, obviously you're not aware of hazards and things that may be around you, unlike during business hours. So again, that's just something we need to look at a little more in depth and, get with you on that to
Could I
resolve.
count on you to deal directly with me on this then? Would that be all
Yeah,
right?
we can,
Okay.
I'll give
All
you
right.
my card and we'll.
Good. We can meet and do whatever.
What we'll do, Mr. Sada, is we'll try to get some folks together, Ryan, if that's okay, and we'll sit down and talk about this, because it sounds like some of it is just the communication hasn't quite aligned, so perhaps, sounds like the permit will be ready today or tomorrow. You can continue and try to finish what you're doing, and then we'll try to get together. and
That's what
talk
was scared
about
me the
this.
worst was the big blue tarp on the building.
I got you.
And,
There's also a concern.
Speak into the microphone, please, sir,
What is
so
this?
we can hear you.
There's also a concern that when you go into another city, you're able to go into a probate office, and all I'm doing is replacing fascia board and siding. I have tore nothing up on his building. All I'm doing is replacing rotting wood and repairing it, fixing everything, and they're trying to say that there's no kind of license I can have, no kind of handyman license over here in Columbus at all, like I have in Alabama to operate over here.
Well, we want to make sure you are able to go ahead and get this property secured and get it completed. So let's talk about that as well. We'll talk, because if it's against the law, we don't have much control over that. But otherwise, we can talk about that and see if there's some way to help you achieve what you're trying to achieve.
And just for the record, and then we'll sit down and leave y'all alone. We have gotten permits for things in the past. I know you were very instrumental on us getting vagrants and all out of a building. When they got out, they actually found a body in the back of the building. We had the building torn down, and then we had a building behind us it needed tearing down. We got a permit and tore it down. So we have a history of getting permits and working with the city. We just had no idea.
Got it.
Well,
so we'll get it kind
Yes,
of
sir.
worked out. Sir, if you'd state your name, just for the record, so they know who is appearing.
Christopher Harden.
All right, Chris, thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
So we'll, if you get with Mr. Pruitt and Ryan, just let us know, and we'll try to sit down and see if we can get it done. Oh, Counselor Garrett.
Director Pruitt, can you explain to me the living conditions deal? Because half the lawyers in this town, we'd be in violation for having a cot in our office. And I'll be honest, I think it's really big government overreach if somebody tells me I can't sleep in my damn office because I've got a trial or something. And I have showers, I have a kitchen because we have a break room. We have everything I need to make it living, but I mean, if it's not used for an actual dwelling, maybe it's just used because you have a late night. Because, I mean, I don't do it often, but probably once a year. I mean, I may have a trial and I'll sleep because I'm at the office till midnight. I have to get up at 5. I mean, where's the discretion and the common sense here? Or like, is this in code or something?
No, and I 100% agree with you. We're not regulating exactly how, you're using your business occupancy. 100% understand that, people have late nights. They have a couch in their office. They're going to spend the night there. The issue is if was modified to have a full dwelling, bathroom, bedroom, whole kitchen, the fire marshal will tell you if you have a range top in a commercial building, that's a commercial kitchen. It needs to have a hood. It needs to have suppression systems, those types of things. So 100% get that, people are going to use their building, it's their property. They should be able to use it as they see fit within means, but the issues, and again, not saying Mr. Sada's written it out or anything like that. 100% don't think that's what's happening. But that would be our concern, is if we modified it without any of those permits or, modifications to make it code compliant, and now we're gonna rent it out, we're gonna let somebody else stay there, those types of issues.
Okay, okay, understood, thank you.
The most that I've used it in the past probably 12 years is, I got sleep apnea. And if I get ready to go home and I get sleepy, I carry my machine with me and I'll go upstairs and I may take a nap for, an hour or two and then, head to the house. But, that's a safety issue for me. But thank y'all so much and I look forward to getting with you later on that.
Counselor Anchor?
Appreciate y'all listening.
We got a few more. Counselor Anchor?
Yeah, Mr. Pruitt, thank you, and for trying to keep us safe. A small business is hard. It's hard to keep up with all the regulations, state law, and you just taught me something I'd never heard before. You mean only a Georgia permitted roofing company can replace our roof in Georgia?
So, again, there's different requirements based on the level of the scope, and there is some gray area here as far. So in Columbus, we do not require permits for just straight re-roofing. If all you're doing is taking the shingles off and putting shingles back on, we do not permit that. So any contractor could do that. They wouldn't necessarily have to be licensed. However, they would need a business license, to operate in Georgia. And we have them all the time out of town, folks that live, across the river and come provide services, landscaping, contracting, painting. They can get a Georgia business license and, be authorized to do that.
Well, yeah, I can appreciate where we got, I think the mayor hit a nail on the head. We've got to make it easier to help educate us, the small business, I'm talking about me, on all these state laws and things that, I think we have good intention of doing the right thing most times, not always. But I appreciate you working with Mr. Seaton and trying to work this out.
Thank you. Counselor Cogle?
Ryan, would you be able to, I can see this now of people contacting us about whether or not they are in compliance of having bedding or living quarters in their small businesses. Can you provide us sometime in the future with what the requirements are of that, of like what constitutes an actual dwelling within a business?
Yeah, I can certainly provide you how the code would define that and how we would look at that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and Ms. Sada, we'll get together and we'll see if we can't get this worked out pretty quick. Thank y'all for being here. All right. That completes the public agenda. We'll move on to the city manager's agenda. Hang on, we got a few other. Counselor Hickey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Pruitt. Before we get into the, Mr. Mayor, before we get into the city manager's agenda, I got a question I want to ask them concerning the Rostron Towers. Been getting a lot of complaints down there about the elevators not working, and 3 times yesterday, fire and EMS was called out down there because some people had some issues, and they had to walk the stairs to go get the people that were in wheelchairs. And I was just wondering, can we put some attention on that down there? Because my fear is that if there's a fire there in Ralston, a lot of people gonna get hurt or killed because the elevators are not working. And I know we gotta have places for affordable housing for people, and I'm all for that. But these landlords that lives out of the country or not in the state or local, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it's just placing our citizens in harm's way. And it just really concerns me that we need to really get on top of this. And can you share with us what we can do, or if you're already doing something?
Yes, so we did get notification from Chief Scarpa and Fire and EMS yesterday about the issue with the elevators. My understanding is they did have a maintenance technician on site, and they got at least one of them up and running yesterday. Our local property maintenance code does require buildings that have elevators to have at least one operating at all time. Elevators themselves, the inspection and maintenance and operation of those fall under the state of Georgia. They're the ones that do the inspections and all of that. So I have reached out to that office to see what kind of assistance they can provide, if any. And then I had folks down there this morning, confirming that everything was up and operating, ensuring that, all the inspections had been done, at least, that the state had come in within the last year and signed off on everything. And I also know as well that the mayor had reached out to the ownership group as well. So we are following up with that, and we'll continue to keep an eye on it.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate all the work that you're doing with this because like I just said, and I can't place enough emphasis on it, that, it's very frightening. And I know, for me, I don't even live down there, but just to know that you get trapped in a building and you don't have no way out of it, that could be bad. So thank you, sir.
It's been a burden. I know Councilor Tucker sent an email out calling attention to some of the issues as well, and it's a real burden on our Columbus Fire and Emergency Medical Services because they get called to help people up the stairs, and some people are on scooters and can't get up the stairs or down. So I did talk briefly by text with the owner last night for over about an hour, and they did come back in, supposedly fixed them, but it remains to be seen. We need to take a look at them, see if they've fixed them or if they have really fixed them. And I'm scheduled to meet with him after the council meeting and just try to remind him that some of these issues that we're hearing about are some of the issues we heard about under the previous ownership. And I think when you're hiring folks that are there in your stead, you don't always know what's going on. I don't know if he does or not, but yeah, we're going to talk to him and see if we can't get some solid commitments out of what needs to be going on. Councilor Tucker?
Yes, sir. And I know you are well aware we've been having problems with the Rostron for many years. The new owners, are they local or are they within our state or? Because I know we had that, ribbon cutting and all that. I was trying to see.
I don't think he lives in Georgia. I know he owns a couple of properties here,
New
though.
York.
So he's got he has interest in other properties here. So there's incentive, I think, for him to try to take a little bit better care. The old situation we had.
It was like an LLC that was
well, and it was they were not fixing anything.
Right.
They would hold a payment on the utility until they were just about to shut it off. They're messing with the tenants in my mind. Then they'd pay that one, but then they wouldn't pay another one. So the situation got to the point where HUD pulled the vouchers. Right. They couldn't function there. So once HUD got rid of that, they had to foreclose. It went into receivership. And of course, city has no authorization at all over that process, but the receiver, his job is to try to recover as much of that money for the people that bought the bonds. So they engaged in an agreement, met this gentleman that owns this, did put a lot of effort into getting it back in shape. And so I'm going to have a conversation with him this afternoon, and I'll report back to the council as far as what the situation is.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor Kogel?
Is that something that we can put a timeline on? I know when we had the ribbon cutting, like Councilor Tucker was saying, I remember the organizing group shaking my hand and saying that this would never go in the direction that it was prior to, which I know we all did a walkthrough, which was deplorable to say the least. And it's, over the last couple years, I've seen the decline or the seeming decline of the Ralston and the increased amount of fire and EMS that has been on site. The business owners on 12th Street have expressed some extreme concern about some of the residents pandering their employees as well as their patrons who are eating outside. And it's heading very rapidly in the same direction that it was prior, maybe with just slightly better living conditions currently, but I know that the 12th Street business owners there do have a rising concern, whether or not it's a safety risk or not. It's a concern for some of their customers, and I think that needs to be addressed as well with the owner of the building. So, and if we can put a timeline on it, like the timeline of when these repairs need to be fixed, and some of the other issues that Councilor Tucker outlined in some of those emails, I think that would be helpful, so that it just doesn't get kicked down the road.
Yeah, we'll follow codes, and we can scrutinize that and make sure that the repairs that are required are done. And again, this is something that the city didn't have any kind of control over. This is just a business decision made by a gentleman, and he really did put a lot of effort into it. So I hope to figure out where the bottleneck is today, why we got in a situation like we seem to be in right now. All right, Deputy City Manager Hughley, I'm sorry. Goodwin, apologize.
Okay. All right. Good morning. Thank you. A few items on the agenda this morning. The first is approval is requested to sell city-owned property at.
Second. All right, there's a motion and approval for item 1 for the sale of 14th Avenue. Any discussion on that? All right, please put it on the screen, and councilors, you can go ahead and vote. All right, that's approved.
Okay, and this, of course, is the selling the property to NeighborWorks at a fair market value of $6,000. Item 2 is Risk Management Legal Services, requesting approval for fiscal 26 legal services.
Okay, that's a motion and a second to approve the legal services. Any discussion on that one? All right, hearing none, please put it on the screen, and councilors, you can vote. Okay. All right, there is a motion and a second to, that passes, by the way. There is a motion and a second to approve the grants that are listed on the city manager's agenda. Is there any that anyone would like pulled out? All right, well then, put it on the screen, and again, councilors, remember, you're voting once, but you're voting for all of those items, and Ms. Goodwin, if you would, go ahead and walk through that.
Okay. Item 3 is the FEMA Fire Prevention and Safety Grant for $250,000. And this is to conduct a comprehensive wildfire community risk analysis and develop a wildfire protection plan. Item 4 through 8 are grants through the Sheriff's Office, and these are grants from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services. And the item 4 is, of course, $175,000 to attract and retain the best law enforcement candidates. All of these grants, of course, are a no-match grant. The item 5 is for $175,000, and this is to implement innovative and collaborative programs addressing the negative impacts of homelessness and squatting. Item 6 is for $200,000. And this is to improve the delivery of the access of mental health and wellness services for the Sheriff's Office, sworn and civilian staff through peer support training, suicide prevention, and other wellness programs. Item 7 is in the amount of $500,000, and this is to promote the outcomes, promote safe outcomes during police encounters with persons in crisis through training. And item 8 is in the amount of $175,000, and this is to combat pressing issues such as street gang violence, gun violence, enforcement gun laws, child trafficking, and other serious criminal activities. And item 9 is approval of acceptance of financial donations for the Risk Management, Risk and Safety Day, excuse me, community event that's going to be held August the 9th at Lake Bottom Park.
Okay, Counselor Tucker?
This was actually for, the item, property sale on 1545 14th Avenue. For future reference, because I know we already approved this, is it possible for us to put within the resolution that if said property is to be sold back or transferred or however to the city, that we not pay over said appraised amount that we have included? So we won't get into situations that we got into regarding that property at Animal Ark that we tried to buy back and we sold it to them for $12,000, $20,000, whatever it was. Yeah, and that we get first option to actually purchase the property if it is sold.
So it's sort of a first right of refusal?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we could take a look at
Because
that.
I think even it was another property that we did for that pocket park that we end up selling. I think we either provide, you about to say something?
So we can add that back, yes, add that
Yes.
in the resolution.
All right, we'll do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Anchor?
Deputy City Attorney, Manager, sorry. What is the process for receiving the grants and controlling that, making sure that when, some of the grants they're coming from different areas, some of them are federal, to make sure that we reconcile and we've used that money properly? Can you outline generally what that looks like? As these grants come in, do they go into the bucket? Do we have any kind of authority that's looking over that and holding that accountable? What's the process?
I'll call on our finance director, Angelica Alexander, but of course, with all of the grants, the departments are really responsible for managing and then oversight of those. Not necessarily the finance department, because although they have a grants accountant there or a grants manager there, each department is really responsible for that and making sure that they follow all of the criteria that's outlined in federal, state, those grants, and they're accountable to those funding agencies, but.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
Deputy City Manager Goodwin pretty much outlined it. We do have a grants accountant that is housed within the finance department. That individual is responsible for assisting the departments with the reconciliation of the grants and making sure that they are spending the money appropriately. Each department that goes out and secures grants, they are required to provide a checklist of sorts that really says, and there's a policy that I don't mind forwarding to you, Council Anchor, that we have in terms of grants management. But there is a checklist that they have to provide, giving specific information about the grants, if there's going to be any match that's concerning the grant, that's signed off on by the department, by the grant accountant, by myself, before it comes on the council agenda for approval. And you are correct. I mean, the discretion in terms of whether or not we accept a grant or apply for a grant lies with the council. Most of the departments, when they go out to secure grants, they do look for those grants that have no local match or a minimum match of sorts. There is a bucket of funding that we include in the budget for the general fund to support some of the local matches if required for grants.
I think that helps me understand a little bit. Is there a separate account just for the grant money, or does it go to the general?
There is a fund, a separate fund. Those grant funds usually require segregation from, say, our general funds. So when a department goes out and applies for a grant and that grant is awarded to that department, once we receive that award information from the grantor, we will then establish a budget for the grant in a specific fund that's housed only for grants. At the end of each fiscal year, depending on the level of funding for that particular grant, that is audited by our external auditors as part of our single audit. So any federal or state grants that meet a certain threshold are audited by the external auditors in addition to being managed by the departments in the finance department.
So is it at the discretion of the, when we receive a grant, like for homelessness, one of these that we went through, I'm just trying to understand, it's the discretion of the department head to hold within those boundaries, to use that money the way it's written? They read the law? I haven't read the detail in that particular grant.
They do, they should. Yes, it is their discretion to read the law and follow the requirements. And we do have some oversight, like I said, in terms of the finance department with the grant accountant, making sure to the best of our ability that they are staying within the guidelines for the grant.
I appreciate the answers. It does help me. And I think in the back of my mind, I'm asking the question because I see a lot of grants flowing through. We must have some good grant writers. And we like that. It helps our community become better. But I also just want to make sure we're doing the right thing with that money and doing it appropriately to the best value. Every penny counts. And I didn't know if we had someday have a committee that kind of helps us and you to make sure that we're in between departments doing the right thing. That's all.
One thing that we are working towards, there was a grant writing RFP that closed out last week. That committee is being pulled together. So that is part of the oversight and the administration of the grant and grant writing process. We are looking to secure a contractor in addition to the support that is the support that's provided by the finance department to assist with managing the grants, so.
Not just assist in writing the grants and
Well,
requesting.
assist in the grant writing and facilitating, helping us with the management of it as well, because we don't obviously want a grant to be written that we're not gonna be able to meet the expectations of the granting agency to fulfill, so.
Deploying it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And also the granting agency validates those records as well, and any information that we provide to them to make sure it's correct.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Crabb?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to ask a question while the finance director was still here. On June 13th, I had asked for a report on the vacant positions, and I still haven't received that. And I remember, we got it? Okay, I apologize. But last week when we were discussing it, I remember you mentioning, and I just want clarification on this, because we were talking about using those salary savings for other items, and you made a comment about we might not be able to do that because some of the funds go into the pension.
Right. So in terms of unfunding positions that have already been allocated in the budget, the way we sort of distribute the costs for our pension contribution, so each year we are required to make a minimum contribution based on the actuarial report provided by our actuary, Mr. Chuck Carr. He tells us how much we need to make for the general government employee pension plan, as well as the public safety pension plan, and as well as the disability and the death benefit plans. And so what we do is we look at the total amount that Mr. Carr says that we have to make up as the government, and we determine a percentage that we can allocate each pay period towards that cost, in addition to the contributions that we receive from the various entities. So that cost allocation is done by budgeted position. So say, for instance, for a public safety position, for the FY26 budget, the percentage of salary pension contribution for public safety employees or public safety positions is 16.25%. So for every budgeted public safety position, our contribution towards the pension minimum requirement is 16.5%. I mean, 16.25%. So that's just a way for us to distribute the cost throughout the budget. We also do that for our health insurance contribution. So working with the benefits consultant, they tell us how much we'll need to fund as a city for the cost of health insurance to meet our 75% contribution for the cost of health care.
So would that contribution go down if we removed those vacant positions from the budget?
Well, the funding is set, and so we require the money. So if you remove the positions, we'll have to make up the funding from some other place.
Couldn't you just, if he's telling you that you have to make a certain amount, a certain contribution, couldn't there be a line item for that contribution instead of it being tied to a vacant position?
So we will make the minimum required contribution regardless of if the position is filled or not. The way we allocate out that cost across the budget is by position.
So you're saying that even if they're vacant and you're not paying a salary,
correct?
You're taking the money that's been set aside for that salary and you're using those funds to pay the pension?
Not for the salary, just for the pension contribution. So the
Okay,
pension
so you've
contribution.
calculated the salary, the pension, the benefits and everything into that. I do remember you doing that when we were working through the budget.
Yes.
You calculated and you said that will be this amount of money.
Correct.
So you're saying that although you're not paying a salary to a person, you're still taking that money that was calculated for the pension out and
Yes.
paying it?
That's correct. So the only thing that we'll be saving is the salary itself that we're not paying to the employee. So
Okay, so that's what you were saying.
That's what I was saying.
That when they calculate the savings, that they don't include the money that would go to pension.
Pension and healthcare, correct.
Pension and healthcare.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I haven't had time to look at the report. When did we get it? Okay. So do we know for sure that when we're looking at those numbers, that those two amounts were taken out of those numbers?
I think, and if I'm recalling the report correctly, because I've looked at it briefly, I do believe that all of the salaries and the individual fringes are broken out into individual columns. So you could just exclude the columns that are listed there for the pension and the health insurance in terms of, whatever funding amount that you may be looking for as far as salary savings or unfunding positions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
So the report, there are multiple columns on the report. There's salaries, there's FICA, there's health insurance, pension. You just would need to exclude the columns for the pension and the health insurance because that money is already spoken for, so to speak. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Chambers.
Yeah, one quick question, Finance Director. So the grant accountant, their responsibility, and you correct me, is to audit each grant and look at internal controls to make sure that money is being appropriated properly?
That responsibility is really on the department, but they do assist with that as well. Their responsibility is to make sure from a financial standpoint that the money has been recorded properly on the financials in terms of the books, but they do also provide assistance in terms of oversight with departments that may need it. You may have some smaller departments that they're not used to writing grants. They may require a little more assistance. And he'll provide that assistance to that particular agency. You have some of our larger agencies and our grant-funded agencies that are more familiar with the grant writing and submission process, particularly those departments that are primarily funded by grants, like our community reinvestment, Metra. They have specific staff to help really sort of manage the grant process and the expenditures and the oversight of it.
So I guess my question is, I guess what I'm hearing is, it's really at the discretion of the department. It's their responsibility to make sure that they are allocating those funds appropriately.
It is, ultimately.
So what's the check and balance on that?
Well,
how do we make sure that we stay in compliance? I know what your department does.
Right.
But from an overall, how do we make sure, does the internal auditor have a responsibility to come in and make sure that the funds are being allocated properly? I'm just trying to.
Well, so again, we do assist with that in terms of trying to make sure that departments are staying compliant with what they're submitting in terms of reimbursement requests from the granting agencies. The external auditor also has a responsibility. We are required, because we receive more than $750,000 in grant funds on an annual basis, we are required to produce what is known as a single audit. And the external auditor is required to do another fine-tooth sort of comb over the grants that have come through the government.
So does the external auditor, does he look at every grant or more of a sample or?
They look at, they do sample every grant that meets a certain threshold. If it's a grant of a certain dollar amount, they'll most certainly look at it, but they do dig down in the weeds in terms of the grants.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Davis?
Thank you, Mayor. Madam Finance Director, if you give me just a moment, Deputy City Manager Godwin. While we got you, just go ahead and knock out a few things. A while back, I think we asked for, I know you're working on the dashboard and the occupational tax area, then we requested some information on that. I wasn't able to get it from a website or anything, but we haven't received that, but here's what I'm gonna request, just kind of modify it a little bit. Why don't you just get us the information of where we're at today as far as collections, what's not been collected? Just give us an overview of that, and then give us a update on the status of the Occupational Tax Revenue Department, just your overview, so we can have an assessment from your view of where it's at right now. Can you do that? Just put it in general?
Yeah, I was actually planning to do a revenue update in July.
Yeah, but if you just get, that document would be good if you just put that together. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Tucker?
Yes, ma'am. Also, can you please add to the list, providing an update for the RFP in the business license office? And I think that Councilor Chambers had asked for American Rescue Plan update. I think we was gonna do that during the work session. I was
That'll be
trying.
at the end of July, the work session.
Okay, is that okay? Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, just to conclude the agenda quickly, I do want to make a correction to item 3 on the fire prevention grant. Although the documents say there are no matching funds, but there are. Just want to make that correction. Those are matching funds with that one. On the purchases, we have 3.
Motion to approve A and B on the purchases. Any discussion on those two items? All right, hearing none, please put it on the screen and counts as one vote, you're approving 2 items. Okay?
Okay.
Would you
Yes.
talk about?
Item A is the bus refurbishment services. This is converting hybrid buses to diesel buses. And item 2 is just an annual contract as needed for hot asphalt, micro and surfacing, and general road repair services. Item C, we are bringing this back. This is the traffic incident management services and towing services. We need to amend Resolution 182-25, where there was an award made to one contractor, one vendor, and we are now coming due to oversight of the RFP that where if there were multiple vendors, we could then recommend those services to both of them. In this case, it's awarded to Griffin & Griffin and Coal Towing and Recovery Services on a rotation basis for those particular vendors. This is a 5-year contract, and it is again for traffic incident management and towing services for CCG.
All right. Counselor Tucker?
Yes, that RFP said that we would take into consideration. Did it say that we must or shall have to?
Yes, it did. And I'm going to ask Director of Finance to come forward. But the RFP does say if there were 2 or more or multiple vendors.
Right, so in the specifications, it did say that it was our intention to award a contract or to contract with multiple qualified vendors. It was the decision of the RFP committee to move forward and recommend only one vendor, but that was not in compliance with our initial intention as specified in the specifications for the RFP.
Since we did not say must or shall, can we just, what motion do I need to say to disapprove this? And just go with the June 3rd approval of the first resolution that we had?
City Attorney, you have any comments?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think Ms. Alexander's already asked it in both options in the RFP. There was the intention of the city to contract with multiple qualified offerors, so, and you preserve that right to do one or more, so you can pass this resolution and add the second vendor.
Or you can just keep the
Or
one
you
that we
can
have?
do nothing. It's your discretion.
Wait, did you want to say something,
We've
Councilman?
we've got a few.
I just want to know what the motion would be to just keep what we approved on June 3rd. And not amend this one, since we already approved. And the RFP committee did choose just Griffin & Griffin. If the RFP committee chose to, then that would be different, but they only chose the one. So just staying with the June 3rd vote that was done.
So you're making a motion?
Yeah, making a motion to stay, to stick with the June 3rd based on the RFP committee's recommendation to approve Griffin & Griffin.
All right, there is a motion to stick with the original recommendation, I guess, of the committee, and just go with the one that was, to the motion, Councilor, or Mayor Pro Tem. Hang on, let me.
Charmaine's, Councilor Crabb, second.
Thank you, Mayor. Just historically, just want to let you know the flexibility of our first responders being able to call a variety of different options. In this case, I think just 2, but the flexibility is to their advantage. it doesn't benefit us, the city, to have one. It benefits the first responders to have multiple options out there. And what I understand is they have a rotation system. They'll call one, and then the next call, they'll call the second one, or others, or whoever it is in line. But it does benefit the first responders. It's not a matter of who gets the contract. It's to their benefit to have an option there.
Sir, I have spoken with public safety, and it was a lot of confusion before trying to do two. And I've actually spoken to counties that had two, that had to go back and revert to one, and these are larger counties than ours. But per public safety, this will actually cause additional problems if you have to, and that's coming from public safety that I spoke to last week.
Well, I just want to let you know, we've been doing multiple for years. It's not just something that happened recently.
When did we start doing multiple for years?
We've had them for multiple. Ms. City Manager, I mean, when I first started on council, we had more than one.
I don't, well, when you first started on council, sir, I can't.
It's like 30.
I can't make any
30
commentary to that. But what I do know, when the last RFP was sent out, it was our intention at that time to have the multiple vendors. I think it was 2 responses that were received 5 years ago, and one of the respondents dropped out. So that's how we kind of wound up with just
prior
one.
to that, we only had one for 20 plus years.
We had it was one vendor that we had. When I started over 16 years ago, it was that one vendor.
Just one. Mm-hmm. So I just, from the conversations, it would be a little challenging. And that's me reaching out to public safety and speaking with them last week. Once I saw that this change was going to be made, I think that if we do this, like in the future for the next RFP, we need to talk about a true plan on how to implement having to, but listen to your public safety individuals like the chief of police that states the complexities of doing two. And he's worked in Henry County where they had to and had to revert back to one. So I would just say have a conversation in regards to that. I know that some of those bigger counties like Gwinnett, they got multiple cities within those counties. Columbus really is Columbus. I mean, even though we got Midland and, Bibb City, but we're Columbus.
I would say also Deputy City Manager Hodge just indicated that the police department are the ones who, they wrote those, that RFP. So we did not, they did.
All right, Councilor Cogle.
Who, if we're alternating, if we have 2 vendors and we have to alternate back and forth, who makes the decision on the calls? Is that our 911 center, or is that?
I believe when this was first sort of thought of 5 years ago, there would be a schedule that would be provided to the 911 dispatchers and the officers to say who's on call for that particular day. And so then they would just dispatch that vendor. I think that was 5 years ago, that was the thought behind the rotating.
So they're alternating days, not per call?
I think it was alternating days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Crabb?
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, I have received correspondence from Kohl's, and I think some of the people at this table will remember how I got my hand slapped when I first came on to council because I reached out to the vendors that were on an RFP for the towing company. And I was told that we were not supposed to be corresponding or talking to applicants of an RFP. This seems to slap that right in the face, that now all of us counselors have received correspondence from Kohl's, and you're asking us to amend and add them to the list. When they reached out to us, it seems like they took themselves out of the running because they broke the rules of the RFP, according to what I've been told.
That may be true, but we're at the end of the process now, and
Well, it was technically sort of done when council approved the first resolution, awarding only to Griffin. At that point, that's the final approval authority, and at that point, we can really sort of proceed with execution of the contract and really sort of moving forward. So any contact that you receive from any particular vendor after that point would be moot to the process, but I do recognize your point. And like I said, the only reason why it's really coming back today is because of what was originally stated in the specifications as far as the city's intention. I think, Mr. City Attorney, if the council desired not to move forward with making the amendment, they just would vote down this particular resolution and the original resolution would stand.
that's fine. It's still a matter of legislative discretion at this point. One award has been made. You're at the end of the process. You can award a second vendor in your discretion or not.
All right, so the motion the motion was to just deny this one. All right, it was seconded. It gets us to the same place, but why don't you withdraw that and then just make it.
Restate the motion. Move to deny.
All right, is that good, clerk, Madam Clerk? All right, there's a motion to deny, and there was a second, yes. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? No. All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Opposed?
1.
Okay, it passes. All right. And that completes, yeah. Deputy City Manager Goodwin, that wraps up your, okay.
Yes, thank you.
We did, as we announced earlier, there was a request for a hard stop at 11 o'clock to conduct an executive session to discuss real estate acquisition and disposal, possible litigation, and personnel. All right, I need a motion so we can, motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, we're in executive session. We are back in regular session. We've been in executive session. We discussed real estate acquisition and potential acquisition and disposal, as well as personnel and potential litigation. Not just yet. We got a council. We'll now. I like the way you think though. But we'll move to the clerk's agenda, Madam Clerk.
Good morning. On the clerk's agenda, we have minutes of various boards.
Motion second, receive the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, they're received.
We have an add-on item, is the resignation of Mr. Watkins from his seat on the Civic Center Advisory Board.
Motion second to receive Mr. Watkins' letter of resignation. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, that's accepted.
Next, we have board appointments. The first ones are the mayor's appointments. Any nominations may be confirmed at this meeting. For the Columbus Sports and Entertainment Authority, we have the seats for the CPA and law enforcement representative, and Mr. Mayor let me know that he is working on these. Then we have the Pension Fund Employees Board of Trustees. We have the vacant seat for the Business Community Rep. Next, we have council district seats. Any nominations may be confirmed for this meeting. For the Civic Center Advisory Board, we have the seat for District 8. Then for the Community Development Advisory Council, we have a vacant seat for District 1. For the Youth Advisory Council, we need nominations for Districts 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 10. And Councilor Kogel is nominating Ava McPherson from St. Luke, and she may be confirmed.
Motion second for confirmation. All in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? All right, she's confirmed.
Next, we have appointments, and any nominations may be confirmed by council at this meeting. For the Columbus Sports and Entertainment Authority, we have a nominee for the Fort Benning representative. Charles R. may be confirmed.
Motion second to confirm Mr. Auer. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, she's
Next, we have council appointments and nominations will be listed for the next meeting on July 8th. First, we have Downtown Development Authority. We have a vacant seat. All the other ones have been filled, so they are actually able to move on with their, the pending business that's at hand. We have the Keep Columbus Beautiful Commission, Senatorial District 15 is vacant. New Horizons, Judge Ranieri does not desire a reappointment. And the Retirees Health Benefits Committee, we need a nominee for Tom Barron's seat, and that's all I have.
all right. Very good. Anything else that needs to come before the council? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. All right, we are adjourned.